Before you spend another Roosevelt dime, take a closer look. Because somewhere in America right now, an ordinary-looking dime is sitting in a coin jar, a dresser drawer, or a forgotten collection. And most people would never guess collectors are still searching for examples like it. The scary part? These coins don't stand out. They don't glow. They don't look rare. And they certainly don't announce their value. Yet certain Roosevelt dimes have quietly become some of the most talked about modern coins among serious collectors. In today's countdown, we're revealing 4 Roosevelt dimes that continue to attract attention from the collecting world. Some survived decades of circulation. Others spent years hidden away before being rediscovered. And every single one has a story that most people have never heard. But don't make the mistake thousands of people make every year. They find one of these coins and spend it without a second thought. And that's exactly why this first coin is so fascinating. At first glance, it looks completely ordinary. The date won't shock you. The design won't surprise you. But collectors know there's far more to the story than what appears on the surface. What happened to this Roosevelt dime over the years and why well-preserved examples continue drawing attention might completely change the way you look at your own collection. So grab your coin jar, check your dresser drawers, and stay until the end. Because coin number 1 starts our countdown with a Roosevelt dime that quietly caught the attention of collectors across the country. And trust me, the discoveries only get more surprising from here. First up, one of the biggest mistakes collectors make is assuming newer coins can't become highly desirable. That's exactly why the 2016 Roosevelt dime catches so many people off guard. Think about it for a moment. In 2016, America was experiencing a year filled with major political events, economic discussions, and technological growth. Millions of coins were moving through cash registers, vending machines, and pocket change every single day. Most people never imagined that a simple dime from that year would someday attract serious collector attention. The Roosevelt dime was minted to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, and by 2016, its familiar design had become one of the most recognized images in American coinage. On the obverse, you'll find Roosevelt's portrait, along with the inscriptions "Liberty," "In God We Trust," and the date 2016. Just beside the date sits the small D mint mark, identifying production at the Denver Mint. Turn the coin over, and you'll see the classic reverse design featuring a torch, an olive branch, and an oak branch. Around the design are the inscriptions "United States of America," "One Dime," and "E Pluribus Unum." It's a design that represents liberty, peace, and strength, values that have remained part of the Roosevelt Dime series for generations. Like other modern Roosevelt dimes, this coin was struck in a copper core with outer layers of copper nickel. It weighs approximately 2,268 grams, measures 17.91 millimeters in diameter, has a thickness of about 1.35 millimeters, and features a reeded edge. These specifications may seem ordinary, but collectors know that condition often separates an everyday coin from one that generates significant interest. What many collectors inspect first is the overall preservation. They look closely at the surfaces, checking for originality, eye appeal, and signs of wear. Attractive original examples become harder to find over time because so many coins enter circulation and pick up damage along the way. That's why cleaning is such a costly mistake. Never clean this coin. Even gentle cleaning can leave marks that reduce collector appeal. Original surfaces matter, and preserving them can make a tremendous difference when experts evaluate a coin. Demand remains strong among collectors for quality examples, and certain specimens have sold for impressive prices through collector transactions and auction activity. With a current collector market value reported around $230,000 for desirable examples, Many people unknowingly spend coins like this without giving them a second look. So if you come across a 2016 Roosevelt Dime, do not spend this coin until you've examined it carefully. Professional grading may be worthwhile for coins that appear especially well preserved. And just when you think a modern dime is surprising, the next coin in this countdown proves that appearances can be incredibly deceiving. What collectors noticed about the next piece may leave you looking at every coin in your collection a little differently. Before we continue, take a moment to check the dimes sitting in your coin jar, wallet, or collection. If you're enjoying the hunt, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Coin Empire USA, and share it with someone who loves discovering hidden collectibles. The next coin is coming up, and you won't want to miss what happens next. Imagine finding a coin that spent decades moving from one pocket to another, passing through cash registers, vending machines, and bank rolls, only to become a coin that collectors still actively search for today. That's the story behind the 1991 P. Roosevelt Dime. By 1991, America was entering a new decade filled with change. The Cold War had recently come to an end, technology was advancing rapidly, and millions of Americans handled Roosevelt dimes every day without giving them a second thought. The Philadelphia Mint continued striking dimes for circulation, and most people saw them as nothing more than everyday pocket change. Yet collectors often look at these coins differently. The Roosevelt dime was originally introduced to honor Franklin D. Roosevelt, one of the most influential presidents in American history. On the obverse, you'll find Roosevelt's portrait, along with the inscriptions Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date 1991. Because this coin was struck at Philadelphia, you'll also find the P mint mark, an important detail collectors immediately check when identifying the coin. Flip it over, and you'll see the familiar reverse design featuring a torch in the center, flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch. Surrounding the design are the inscriptions United States of America, E pluribus unum, and one dime. It's a design that has remained a symbol of freedom, peace, and strength for generations of Americans. Like other modern Roosevelt dimes, the 1991 P was produced with a copper core bonded to outer layers of copper nickel. The coin weighs approximately 2,268 grams, measures 17.91 millimeters in diameter, has a thickness of about 1.35 millimeters, and features a reeded edge. These specifications are standard, but collectors know that condition is often where the real story begins. What do experienced collectors inspect first? Usually the surfaces. They look for originality, natural color, and signs that the coin has been preserved rather than altered. Attractive original examples become harder to find because many coins from this era circulated heavily for years. That's why cleaning can be so damaging. Never clean this coin. Even a light cleaning can permanently affect the surfaces and reduce collector interest. Original surfaces matter, and preserving them is one of the smartest things any collector can do. Collectors continue searching for examples like this because demand remains strong. Certain specimens have sold for impressive prices, and auction activity has shown that well-preserved examples attract significant attention. With a reported collector market value reaching as high as $280,000 for desirable examples, it's easy to see why many people unknowingly spend coins like this. If you come across a 1991 P. Roosevelt dime, take a closer look before sending it back into circulation. Do not spend this coin until you've carefully examined its condition. Professional grading may be worthwhile if the coin appears especially attractive and well preserved. And if you think this Roosevelt dime has an interesting story, wait until you see what comes next. The next coin in this countdown reminds collectors that sometimes the smallest details can create the biggest surprises. Here's something that surprises a lot of collectors. Sometimes the coins people overlook the fastest end up becoming the ones they wish they had saved. That brings us to the 2015 Roosevelt Dime, a coin that blended effortlessly into everyday circulation. In 2015, Americans were tapping smartphones, shopping online, and relying more on digital payments than ever before. Yet billions of physical coins still changed hands across the country, including Roosevelt Dimes, that most people never looked at twice. For collectors, though, that lack of attention can make all the difference. The Roosevelt Dime continues a tradition that began in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt and his connection to the fight against polio. On the obverse, you will see Roosevelt's portrait, along with the inscriptions "Liberty, in God We Trust," and the date 2015. Just beside the date is the D mint mark, showing that this coin was produced at the Denver Mint. Turn the coin over, and you'll find the familiar reverse design that collectors know so well. A torch stands proudly in the center, representing liberty, while an olive branch symbolizes peace, and an oak branch represents strength. Around the design are the inscriptions "United States of America," "E pluribus unum," and "1 dime." The specifications are standard for a modern Roosevelt dime, but they're still important to understand. The coin is composed of outer layers of copper-nickel bonded to a pure copper core. It weighs approximately 2,268 grams, measures 17.91 millimeters in diameter, has a thickness of about 1.35 millimeters, and features a reeded edge. What makes collectors pause when they examine a 2015 dime isn't the size or composition. It's the condition. Experienced collectors immediately inspect the surfaces. They look for natural luster, original appearance, and signs that the coin has been preserved carefully over the years. Attractive original examples become harder to find because so many coins spend years in circulation collecting marks, scratches, and wear. That's why one warning is repeated again and again throughout the hobby: never clean this coin. Cleaning may seem harmless, but it can permanently alter the surfaces and reduce collector interest. Original surfaces matter, and preserving them often helps maintain long-term desirability. Collectors continue searching for examples like this because demand remains strong among those building Roosevelt dime collections. Certain specimens have sold for impressive prices, and auction activity has demonstrated that well-preserved examples consistently attract attention. With a reported collector market value reaching $240,000 for desirable examples, many people unknowingly spend coins like this every single day. If you happen to find a 2015 Roosevelt dime, take a closer look before tossing it back into circulation. Do not spend this coin without examining its condition first. Professional grading may be worthwhile if the coin appears especially attractive and original. And just when you think you've seen the most interesting Roosevelt dime in this countdown, the final coin waits with a story that reminds collectors why patience, observation, and a careful eye can sometimes lead to the most surprising discoveries of all. A forgotten coin jar has started more collecting stories than most people realize. Maybe you've got one sitting in a closet right now, filled with years of spare change that hasn't been touched in ages. If so, the 2016 Roosevelt dime is exactly the kind of coin that deserves a second look. Back in 2006, the United States was experiencing rapid technological growth, expanding online commerce, and a changing economy. Yet despite all the digital innovation, billions of coins continued moving through everyday transactions. Among them was the Roosevelt Dime, one of the most familiar coins in American circulation. The dime was originally introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, whose leadership and legacy left a lasting mark on American history. By 2006, the design had become instantly recognizable across the country. On the obverse, you'll find Roosevelt's portrait, along with the inscriptions "Liberty," "In God We Trust," and the date 2006. Near the date sits the D mint mark, indicating that this coin was struck at the Denver Mint. Flip the coin over, and you'll see the classic reverse design that has defined the Roosevelt Dime series for generations. A central torch represents liberty, while an olive branch symbolizes peace, and an oak branch stands for strength. Surrounding these elements are the inscriptions "United States of America," "E pluribus unum," and "One Dime." Like other modern Roosevelt dimes, the 2006 D was struck using outer layers of copper nickel bonded to a pure copper core. The coin weighs approximately 2,268 grams, measures 17.91 millimeters in diameter, has a thickness of about 1.35 millimeters, and features a reeded edge. These technical details may sound routine, but collectors know that the real difference often comes down to preservation. What do experienced collectors inspect first? The surfaces. They carefully examine the coin for originality, eye appeal, and signs of wear. Attractive original examples become harder to find with each passing year because circulation leaves marks that can never be reversed. That's one reason survival of desirable specimens continues to attract collector attention. And here's a mistake you should avoid at all costs. Never clean this coin. Cleaning can permanently alter the surfaces and reduce collector interest. Original surfaces matter, and preserving them exactly as found is often the smartest move. Collectors continue searching for examples like this because demand remains strong. Certain specimens have sold for impressive prices, and auction activity has shown that well-preserved coins can attract serious attention. With a reported collector market value reaching $260,000 for desirable examples, many people unknowingly spend coins like this without realizing what they're holding. If you discover a 2060 Roosevelt Dime, don't rush to spend it. Examine it carefully, protect its condition, and consider whether professional grading may be worthwhile. A well-preserved coin can tell a much different story than one that's been heavily handled over the years. That brings us to the end of today's Roosevelt Dime Countdown, but your treasure hunt is just beginning. Take a fresh look at your coin jars, old collections, bankrolls, and forgotten drawers. You never know what might be waiting there. If you enjoyed this journey through some of the most talked about Roosevelt dimes, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Coin Empire USA, and share it with fellow collectors. Every coin has a story, and the next incredible discovery could already be sitting in your collection. Comment "Rare Coins Hunter" if you're still watching. I want to know who the real treasure hunters are.